Good evening and welcome to Going for Two. This is the only YouTube podcast in human recorded history to feature a male and female host drinking our way through the important topics of the day, as long as they touch the football world and not in that way. I am Zach Law, and this is special Snowflake Sharona. I've used your entire name this week. We're recording on February 2nd. That's not February 2nd. It's like February 8th, 2017. I'm just bad. My bad notes.
You've been sick. You're allowed.
Before we get to the drinking and the most deserving fan base for an unlikely comeback, note, sarcasm mode engaged, I want to introduce a short segment called Things You'll Hear on Sharona's Backtalk program that you'll never hear on this show. Here's the quote. I agree with everything you just said.
Oh.
With that out of the way, yeah.
True.
What's drinking this week? I hear your beer supply just went up.
My beer supply did go up. You guys, a dream came true. I was able to meet Zach's better half, Allison, last Friday. And it was as awesome as advertised, and it was so great. And Zach paid up. I have not had a dragon's milk in months. And I got my dragon's milk. But even better, I got my Game of Thrones mug.
Nice. Yeah, I sent a picture from the beer place I was at, and I gave her a choice. Okay, which one do you want? So that's how you do it. Now, in honor, we'll introduce to you in a second. In honor of the Falcons game, I got a special beer. This is from New Holland Brewing. It's called Mischievous 2. It's a sour brown ale with peaches. Way to go, Falcons. I know, what are two beers I can get that Sharona would not try? Well, she probably wouldn't like the other one, too. I got a salted caramel.
I would drink that. I would drink the shit out of that.
Salted caramels everywhere. I haven't seen it in beer. Oh, intriguing. Like smoke and like bacon and salt are flavors that beer maybe shouldn't do, but people keep trying anyway. Well, it's been so long that I can't recall if T, a.k.a. Houday on Twitter, introduced the Ninja hashtag or if I gave it to him as a gift. We have a long-suffering Bengals fan who writes for Fake Pigskin, Fantasy Pros, and XN Sports. He's also a cardboard ninja, which I'm sure will make sense in a few minutes. And also, Sharona will like him because he knows what Twitch is. Welcome aboard and way to play. So last week I had a cold, and now you have a cold, but you're here, and I wasn't, so better man than me. Hi.
Zach will never forgive me for that, T.
What'd I do?
It's all right. It's fine. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold, so bear with me, folks. If you can't understand me, I'll try and talk directly into the mic as much as possible.
You sound wonderful to me. I can hear you perfectly.
Right. Sounds good. So, T, was it refreshing to not see the Bengals lose a wild card game to a team starting a quarterback who will be a manager and a Domino's in 3 years?
Oh, man. Yeah, it was a rough year. It was definitely a rough year for the Bengals as a whole. I think health had a lot to do with it. And, changing offensive coordinators, Hugh Jackson leaving, it's not easy. For him to get implemented into a new offensive scheme. Looked like they were trying a lot of different things at the beginning, and instead of keeping it simple, stupid, tried to get a little bit too cute in spots, and it definitely hurt. So hopefully, going into the draft, we pick up some much-needed talent in the problem areas. I would say it's safety and probably the offensive line, but at the same time, year after year, it seems like the same needs need to be addressed. And, taking a step back instead of taking a step forward is rough. And we'll see what happens with this team going into this year if they can regain that swagger that they kind of had for those 5 years and going to the playoffs.
The Bengals have been a very fertile ground for mining coordinators and other position coaches really to head coaching positions. And you mentioned Hugh, and there certainly have been some others. Are you guys expecting to lose anyone else?
After kind of a down year, I don't think anyone's going to be going anywhere at this point. Obviously the fan base is always, screaming for Marvin's head.
Yeah.
but at the same time, if Marvin was going to get fired, he would have got fired 4 years ago, and we probably would have kept Zimmer or promoted Zimmer.
Yeah.
Since we haven't done that, I mean, you look around the NFL, and um, there's something to be said about the continuity that Marvin
Yep.
Lewis provides to the team. It kind of reminds me of how the Pittsburgh Steelers stayed with Bill Cowher through those tough years, and then Bill Cowher finally rewarded him with the Super Bowl win. I think that Mike Brown's trying to do the same thing with Marvin Lewis, trying to reward him for staying here all these years. And to be honest, Mike Brown's not the easiest person to work with, and I think that Marvin Lewis is one person who understands where Mike Brown's coming from, and with them being able to communicate on kind of an equal playing field, I think that Marvin staying put is the right call. So I don't see anybody else moving spots or anything like that.
Okay.
Now, anytime the hashtag Ginger Ninja, who is also known as Andy Dalton, made a good play, I would send you a tweet. But like, what's happening with him? I don't even remember. Like, he seems to have this 1 year deal, and it's almost like he's not quite the same as the head coach. But what's happening there? They can give him another shot.
I think Andy Dalton's fine. I mean, that Andy Dalton just signed his $100 million contract, I think last year. So he's locked in, and we made sure we locked in AJ Green for the foreseeable future. I think this is a duo that they will try and keep together for the next 6 to 5 years. A lot of people want to give Andy Dalton this, a lot of shit, but you look at what Matt Ryan did this year, and Matt Ryan was kind of in that same area where you knew he
Hmm.
was a decent quarterback. He was drafted pretty high, but he just couldn't get over the turnovers and the costly mistakes. And I think that once Andy figures it out, maybe goes in, pays a little bit more time with the film, he'll recognize some of his mistakes. But let's be honest, I mean, he's still a decent quarterback. He still puts up decent numbers, considering that it was a down year, and he still kind of made the Pro Bowl as an alternate. Should say something. I mean, yeah, I mean, Philip Rivers made it too, but he had some respectable numbers, and I think that you know it was just a down year for all of us, trying to figure out what our identity was. I think going into next year with the continuity of everybody being there, everybody knowing their positions, knowing exactly what they need to do, you could see Andy probably taking the next step. I think that he's not quite in the place where he can call the plays himself, um, and so he's kind of handcuffed towards these new offensive coordinators keep rolling in. I mean, we had Jay Gruden for 2 years, he left. Hugh Jackson for 2 years, he left. And like Sharona said, the turnover at the coordinator position is something I guess you really can't overlook. I mean, you look at Alex Smith and all the coordinators he's had over his career, and a lot of people give Alex Smith a lot of shit about whether or not he's a decent quarterback or not. And I think that he's kind of in the same situation with Alex Smith, where he's a decent quarterback, but there has to be something said in learning new terminology every 2 years or every year and expecting to perform at a high level.
I agree with that. Ah, Zach, I agree with everything you just said, T.
Not
Nice.
my name at the end. Yes, I understand. Now, was there anything? I mean, the year is kind of encapsulated by like before the year, everybody was saying AJ Green's got this giant year, so I got him like in the first round of our draft. That Sharona beat me in later in the year, but early in the year when AJ Green was okay, I was kicking butt. Oh, this is just so frustrating. I remember he got hurt, and I kept thinking he's going to come back, and then he never came back, and it was smart of them to not come back. Are any of those other guys going to step up like Tyler Boyd? I mean, I know Eifert's been good as long as he doesn't play in the Pro Bowl, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what do you think about the offense next year, especially with the running backs? Because like Jeremy Hill just like he had a great rookie
Yeah.
year, and then he'd have two touchdown weeks and then do nothing. And I can't remember the other guy's name who got injured last year and probably was on a bunch of
Gio.
my fantasy teams too. Yeah, Gio. And
Yep.
he's up for extension, right? Is he a
No, we
free
actually
agent?
locked him in
Okay.
the
Well, that's right.
start of the season last year to a restructured 4 year deal. Jeremy Hill is the one that's in question coming into next year. So, expect to see some kind of a bounce back from both of them. Like I said before, this team, they had injuries all over the place. I don't think Jeremy Hill was healthy coming into the year. Gio obviously got hurt. That zapped a lot of our offense out because we like to use Gio as a wide receiver and as a running back. Tyler Boyd did come along late. He shows a lot of promise. I think that he's a guy to where if the Bengals decide not to draft a wide receiver in the first round, I think he'll be the reason why. Um, but at the same time, AJ getting hurt, like you said, I think it was a smart move for the Bengals organization to shut him down uh, because, we did just give him that, extension of a 90 to $100 million contract. He's our future, and it was looking bleak there towards the end of the year. I respect AJ Green for saying that he would have came out and played if they let him. Uh, but at the same time, we got to make sure that this team's healthy. I think more than anything in the NFL, the depth chart is more and more and more and more important. That next man up is no joke, and
Yep.
I think that a lot of the moves that will be happening with the Bengals in the offseason will more have to do with the depth of the team. That third running back, that fourth running back, that fourth wide receiver, those backup tackles and, guards. That's probably going to determine whether or not we have a successful year next year. If we address the needs that we desperately need in the draft and our draft picks, it seems like every year our first round draft pick gets hurt in preseason. So, William Jackson got hurt last year to start the year, and then they shut him down. We have some youth at the cornerback position coming in, some talent, but at the same time, I think that the youth and the inexperience might be a problem. So I don't know what we're going to do as far as the secondary is concerned, but I think a lot of the things had to do with the health, and as long as the team comes back healthy, I don't see any reason why we don't contend.
Yeah, it always seems like the Bengals have drafted like a quarterback in the first round like 6 years in a row. But so will next year be the year that the team finally says goodbye to Perfect and Pac-Man?
I hope we get rid of Pac-Man. I think that after his latest scuff up with law enforcement, enough is enough at this point. I mean, we gave him his second chance.
And a
Uh,
third.
Yeah.
and a third, and we rewarded him,
Hmm.
he did reward us back with staying out of trouble, for most of the time. He's had his issues. Um, I just don't understand how a guy like that can be surrounded by people that lets him go out and do the things that he does. You have enough money, just stay in your house, just get drunk in your house, and you got to worry about other people messing with you.
Yeah.
So he's just one of those people that constantly finds himself at the wrong place at the wrong time. I think with Burfict, though, a lot of people, want to point to Burfict and say that, he's a dirty player, this, that, and the other. But I think Burfict's the opposite of Pac-Man Jones, where you don't really hear the off-the-field issues with Burfict like you do with Pac-Man Jones. And, Burfict's a dirty player, I guess. People are going to say that. But at the same time, I'd rather have him on my team doing what he does. And if he gets suspended on the field, so be it. I'd rather him get suspended on the field for his actions than get suspended off the field for doing something stupid. And I think that was the hugest knock towards Burfict coming out of the draft, is whether or not he could stay out of trouble off the field. And I think he's done that.
Yeah, and he does seem like now he has that reputation. So if he does anything borderline, he always gets the opposite of the
Yep.
benefit of the doubt, and that just happens with some players.
I would
Yeah.
just like to remind everyone that Butch Jones brought Pac-Man Jones in to speak to his champions of life about character.
Does he have a 5-star heart?
I'm sure that he does have a 5-star heart.
Yeah, well, that was the weird thing about Pac-Man because he had all the trouble with the Titans, and then with the Cowboys, it was like 5 minutes after he signed, he got into trouble. And then the Bengals, like, you didn't hear a thing, and he's been in the NFL for like a decade. It's crazy. Like, he was drafted the year before Vince Young, I think, and
Yeah.
that he's still in the
Yes,
NFL. I
was
mean, a
2005.
cornerback in his 30s still making plays. Like, he was a good, fantasy IDP kind of guy.
Yeah.
But it
I mean,
was
if we
And
don't
still
if we don't
doing it
have
on
him on the team
special
this year,
teams.
Well, I mean, we were trying to implement more youth at the special team spot, punt
Yeah.
returning with Alex Erickson.
Yeah.
Um, but I agree with you, Zach. You know, Pac-Man Jones, he's up there in age, and he's still a very serviceable cornerback in
Yep.
this league. And you know, if the Bengals don't have him, I'm sure some team will pick him up because you know, cornerbacks are kind of like the running backs on the offensive side and the defensive side, where you know it seems like cornerbacks drop like flies more than any other position on the defensive side.
Yeah, you can't have too many, and basically three guys are starting on a team, and yeah, you kind of need a fourth. And is that Iggy hanging out
That
behind you
is
there?
this is Iggy,
The special
everyone.
guest star of the show.
Star of the show, and also, as a matter of fact, the star of my latest article that I'm working on, non-ITP article that I'm working on, and so yeah, she's a star.
I hear you got going a lot going on there, so we'll get to that now. So where was the situation with everybody on Sunday? Like I was going to go to my friend Hi Don. I didn't say Hi Don yet. I was going to go to
Hi,
my friend
Don.
Don's Super Bowl party, but both me and the wife were sick, so we watched. Well, basically, we watched the first half together, and Allison was like, "Hey, I want to watch the Super Bowl, halftime show." And then she was gone, so I was basically standing downstairs by myself watching the game. And I was kind of surprised to hear from Sharona that she was going to drink a dragon's milk if the Falcons won. I was like, that is boss drinking 11% beer at like 11 o'clock at night on a
Yeah.
Sunday. That
I mean,
shows
it was
good
going to be
drama.
lit. It was going to be lit. I was going to be lit. It was going to be on, and never put your faith in an Atlanta team. I'm telling you.
It was kind of sad is I had a Atlanta beer. That was the beer I brought to Nashville. I was going to bring to my
Yeah.
friend who didn't show up. It was a smoked bacon porter
Oh,
by
yum.
Sweetwater, and I drank it in the second half, and they blew up.
It's your
So
fault.
obviously, it's my fault, but I should have just seen like when it was 28-3. Was there anywhere to go to bet on the Patriots winning, and what were the odds at that point? Because I think Number Fire, and all the sites that do the calculations were like, Falcons are 99% sure to win at a certain point, and when it was 28-12 with what 6 minutes to go, but man, did it have to be the Patriots to do that? I mean, couldn't it have been the Falcons? I mean, we have so little in Atlanta. Just give us a little something. Uh,
Well, I mean, really, and I think Zach listened to the show, and so he knows I said this. I don't mean to take anything away from the Patriots, but Atlanta has nobody to blame but themselves. From their stupid penalties to the offensive play calling was horrific. They didn't run the clock down. They didn't run the ball. It was like they didn't know they had the lead.
yeah, from what I
Well, what it
heard,
was for me, I thought, and it's just a theory, um, but I think something also has to be said for, I guess some of these you know how coaches will, especially I guess you see it like more in baseball or more in basketball where, you know a certain player needs a certain amount of number to, have this milestone during the game and
Yeah.
becomes the player of the game. And I think that at the 28-3 moment, if they shut it down like they were supposed to and start running the football, Devontae Freeman could have easily been the MVP of the game.
Yeah. Or Grady
And I
Jack
think that
or Grady Jarrett,
yeah,
yeah, and I
who,
think what they were trying to do was trying to force the issue and trying to make Matt Ryan become the MVP of the game. Kind of the same situation that the Seahawks did when they played the Patriots.
yeah,
Instead of giving the
yeah.
ball to Marshawn and Marshawn becoming the MVP, they tried to let Russell Wilson throw the pass to become the MVP of the game. It's just a theory, but I think that maybe that had something to do with it. But you're right. The Atlanta Falcons. I mean, that was the dumbest play calling I've ever seen. And once Julian Edelman made that catch, you kind of had the
Yeah.
feeling that, oh no, like the Patriots, you gave them way too much time. You gave them way too much time. And
Hmm.
case in point, it happened. And and to the people out there, shut your faces, all right, about the NFL rules are just so stupid about overtime. Okay, all right, we didn't want to draw. We didn't want a tie. All right. So what? The Atlanta Falcons lost the coin toss and they don't get a possession. It's their job at that point to stop them from scoring. And really, the Patriots had the Atlanta Falcons defense on their back foot that whole fourth quarter and it going
Well,
into
they were
overtime. And
gassed. Yeah,
they were so gassed.
yeah.
And I remember hearing specifically the commentators questioning why the Patriots were running the ball with LeGarrette Blount late in the game when LeGarrette Blount was getting like 7 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards per carry. They kept doing it like 3 or 4 plays in a row. Um, but at the same time, you saw that with those plays, running plays, 4 running plays in a row where LeGarrette Blount was just abusing them. They were stopping the run at the start of the game, but then LeGarrette Blount started ripping those off towards the end and moving those chains. Um, Hats
That's
off to the
demoralizing
Patriots.
to a defense, you
Yeah,
know?
it is. But I mean, that's what Marshawn said.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to run through a motherfucking face,
Yeah.
and they can't take that shit no more. They
Now, I
just
will
can't.
say this, and I agree with you, and the Falcons should have won it in regulation. And I am on team change the overtime rules, but doesn't have anything to do with this game. I was on that team before this game. I don't think that the NFL rule is balanced. I like the college rule better. But yeah, again, the Falcons don't have anybody to blame but themselves. They had the game won. They had a historic lead. They choked it away.
And the
Period.
defense, I don't know else the defense could have done at the end because they did hold them to 9 points in the three
But you
quarters.
guys, what? Let me
And they
ask
had
you guys
99
this.
plays in a game. Like, I think 60 to 65 is like a normal expectation. So they were, yeah, definitely. And the thing was, like, when the Falcons scored, they scored quick. And you see, they only scored 21 points in offense. They got the pick six. And man, when that happened and Tom Brady just missed them, that's the problem with the early celebration. It's just like, man, we want the Patriots to lose. And there was a little more, it
I
seemed a little more on
really
the line than
regretted my Bible
usual.
issue. Yeah. Anyway, let
Oh,
me ask you guys
yeah.
this.
Everybody had some bad tweets, I'm
That
sure.
was
Can we just
okay.
erase the tweets that night, please?
So, so we knew that Kyle Shanahan was going to leave and go to San Francisco, and that's all well and good and fine, and good luck to him and to San Francisco.
There's your bye, Felicia.
But the firing of that was the defensive line coach and the cornerbacks coach, right?
The
They fired two of
I
their
think it was
coaches and
actually the defensive
coordinator,
coordinator
Defensive
and the
coordinator.
defensive line coach.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
pretty
yeah, because
much changing their
Brian
whole
Cox is the
coaching staff.
defensive line coach. That's right. The defensive coordinator. What do you think about that?
It sounded like the coordinator was going to get fired. I don't know about it's definitely unusual. That was one thing. Like, I always thought that the team that held out for the Super Bowl to get the coordinator was the smart team because they didn't have to fight with the other teams. But then I forgot about the other side is like, well, how do you fill a coaching staff when everybody else has been hired? You have to grab college guys, you have to poach guys off staffs. And then, of course, the Falcons sign Steve Sarkisian, who, like, 3 months ago was semi-employed and and oddly enough was the offensive coordinator of Alabama who blew a big lead in their game. Not 25 points, but pretty big. So, yeah,
Who was it?
from what I
Somebody
heard,
tweeted.
Shanahan brought almost the entire offensive staff with him to San Francisco. So they have, like, I think one coach, offensive line coach, and a couple defensive coaches. But yeah,
I want you to answer that question, but just real quick, somebody tweeted out that Mike Price was coached at Alabama longer than Steve Sarkisian.
wow, that's a good one.
So, and I laughed
Was
at
Mike
that,
Price there for what, 2 months?
which kind of showed my age, I suppose. But I laughed at that because it was so funny. So, T,
I
what do you
think,
think? I mean, to me, that's like scapegoating at an elite
yeah.
level.
Well, I mean, somebody had to, take the blame for it. Unfortunately, when you lose like that, um,
But I don't think it
there
was really the defensive line's
and it
fault.
wasn't because if you think about the body of work, it was really their defense that got them in the position that they were
Yeah.
in to be playing in the Super Bowl. Their defense really turned it on late. Vic Beasley became, a household name. I think the maturation of Dante Jones, the acquisition of Dwight Freeney, They did a lot of things that were very positive on the defensive side, and it's just I guess they had to get the axe because they're not going to axe Dan Quinn, and somebody has to take the blame, and it's such an epic loss.
So,
And talking about a play that you're trying to give your guy the glory. I don't remember if this was overtime or at the end of the regulation. I think it might have been overtime when they had the ball at the 2 and Tom Brady threw that fade pass and Vic Beasley could have intercepted. Like he had a hand on it. And it was like the next play they ran it in like no problem. And I was like, oh, we're giving Tom Brady the glory. And then it's like, yeah, let's just win this game. But it's like, yeah, I mean, the pass that Edelman caught, I mean, wasn't it basically in the defender's hands?
it was.
Of
It
course, the
was,
3 guys were around him, but
Yeah,
and he made
and
a couple of
that
grabs like
happens.
that. Yeah.
That happens a lot.
but
And
then he
it's
got a
just,
couple of drops too, and especially early, it made you feel like like that Giants Super Bowl or like the Super Bowl that they lost, where he missed Welker on that fade. Uh, but early, Edelman had a couple of drops and characteristically, and for him to make that catch when they needed it, I know everybody wants to say David Tyree esque. Um, just in terms of what it meant to the game, the momentum was just incredible.
That
I
was really
just I
more
don't
about body
understand.
control to me than it was about luck, which is what the Tyree catch was. And
Right.
yeah, it was amazing. I would have, and I know that James White and his numbers and all of that, and he was fantastic, and there's no question at all about that, and I understand why Tom Brady gets all the love that he gets and everything, but for me, I do not think that the Patriots would have won this game without Julian Edelman, and I would have made him my MVP because without that catch, I don't think they win. I don't.
I actually wrote an article on Project Roto like 3 or 4 years ago when Aaron Hernandez first got arrested and got thrown in jail, and everyone was saying, "Oh, this guy's going to be the next guy. This guy's going to be the next guy," and I'm like, guys, Julian Edelman's still on the team, and I wrote an article about how Julian Edelman would be the guy for the Patriots moving forward,
Good
and
call.
I'm just glad that it's happened. But at the same time, the the work and the body of work was there, and I think that when they got rid of Welker, um, they understood what they had in Julian Edelman, and just bravo to him. Being a quarterback in college and then converting over to wide receiver. He hardly got any playing time in the beginning of his career, and now he's a household name. And girls want to post pictures on Snapchat of
They want to
having
do more
sex with
than
him and
that.
stuff. So
didn't he like play cornerback in one Super Bowl? Like they were playing him both ways, I know, for a
hmm
year.
hmm
Because I dumped him in a dynasty league the year before he caught like 100 passes and was just like, oh,
Wasn't it
just
Tim
don't
Brown
get
that
rid
did
of
that too?
anybody. Troy Brown, yeah,
Troy
he
Troy
Brown.
played.
Brown, yeah.
There was one, I think, one Super Bowl like had injuries and he ended up playing because he did play. It's just that kind of stuff happens. Yeah, it was like the LeGarrette Blunt fumble, and then what's his name, 33, got hurt. I don't know what kind of injury he had, but then it was like the James White show. Yeah, it was like screen pass, screen pass, screen pass. I didn't even realize till after the game that he had 3 touchdowns. I was like, man, he scored 20 points. I don't know if anybody scored more in a Super Bowl. Has anybody had 4 touchdowns in a game? Like, I know threes happened before, but man, it's just that was something else. And I'm like, he's going to be the guy who caught 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, and the team's probably going to like cut him during the offseason because I think he's a free agent, and
Yeah,
there's no way he's getting. It's like
no.
even Tom Brady's underpaid. He's making less than Andy Dalton. He's making less than Tyrod.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
But he did that on purpose, and
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't. That I guess people forget about Tom Brady, and that he has made this sacrifice. What a lot of other quarterbacks won't. You look at Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning wouldn't make the sacrifice of his dollars uh, towards kind of keeping the continuity of the teams together. Um, and so hats off to Tom Brady, even though he's got his dough. Um, but
Well,
like
let's
you said,
see.
he's
It's
making
easier
less.
for him too because he does
They
get
have a
money
second
from,
income. Yeah.
and his wife makes
Yeah,
more money than he does.
it's
You
true.
know,
That's
I
true.
mean,
I mean, being Tom Brady is not bad. It's
I
not
mean,
bad at
it's a
all.
good gig if you can get it.
Yeah,
I just think it's incredible, just remembering that rookie season that he had, um, and where he is now. Yeah, the cheating scandals aside, um, with the 5 rings, I think that it's safe to say that he might have be one of the greatest quarterbacks ever
Yeah.
to ever play the game, at least in our era. And I think it's been, whether you love or hate the Patriots, it's been a blessing to watch Tom Brady play, just like it was a blessing to watch Peyton Manning play.
Well, and I think too, and you know, you said this earlier, T. You can't, Tom Brady. There's no question that he's good, but he's also benefited from the stability that the Patriots have experienced and having really a once in a lifetime coach, not just a once in a generation coach, but a once in a lifetime coach in Bill Belichick, and they put a good system around him too.
yeah. Even Peyton's been on a rebuilding program a couple of times, but for Tom Brady, I mean, he was pretty much a rookie that first year when they won the Super Bowl and they went, 11-5. They kind of had a like Falcons this year kind of year. But I mean, he threw for like 150 yards in that Super Bowl, and I think he was MVP. I don't even remember. It's
Well,
weird. The
I just don't
one
forget. And I know they didn't make the playoffs and all of that, but I mean the Patriots went 11-5 with Matt Castle.
that is
Yeah,
true.
yeah. And you see what happened to Matt Castle after that.
Yeah,
Um,
Titans baby. Oh.
don't ask.
Well, there. I guess in this current political climate, there's a lot of talk about privilege, and obviously Tom Brady's had way more opportunity than a lot of other quarterbacks had who had great careers but couldn't do it. But obviously, his last two Super Bowls going a combined 29-0. Obviously, the defense helped, but he managed to have the two biggest comebacks.
Yep.
And Kurt Warner gets in the Hall of Fame, and he was in the Super Bowl 3 times, and he had the top 3 passing numbers ever, and then Tom Brady topped them. But that's because Tom Brady threw the ball like 80 times in the game. That's hard to beat. But man, what a finish! Although I think it was the draw play, like he did a cartoon. He kind of mentioned that the Super Bowl was kind of like 2 blowouts. Like the first half was a blowout one way, and the second half was a blowout the other way. So there wasn't a point in the game where the teams were like throwing haymakers. It was just like one team was playing really well and the other one was sucking, and then it went the other way, and that's just the way it turned out. And maybe that's the appropriate finish for this year because it's been like kind of a downer. That the playoffs kind of sucked, the regular season kind of sucked, and the Super Bowl like secretly sucked in a way.
yeah,
And
yeah.
especially sucked if you were not a Patriots fan, which is pretty much everybody who's not a Boston fan. So yay!
Well,
Even the commercials sucked.
I have chosen to be a Martellus Bennett fan and a Devin McCourty
Yeah, I'm glad
fan,
Martellus Bennett
and
won. He's good.
and so that's how I live with myself. That's how I live with that whole victory thing.
Unfortunately, there are lots of Patriot fans that live in Cincinnati, probably because they were tired of cheering for the Bengals and wanted to root for a winner. Uh, but there are a lot of Patriot fans in the city, and they're definitely walking around with the swagger, like, "Oh, we're the Kings again," blah blah blah. And it's like, enough, Boston. Haven't you guys had enough? Like what's the tweet of the little boy that's been to like 10 parades and he's only 15 years old? Like that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
It's like Drake.
Boston's
Kenny Chesney.
done well
Kenny
lately,
Chesney, if he likes to, you know.
but this salted caramel chocolate porter is
Yeah.
is on point. Now I try not to buy like 4 packs or 6 packs of new beer because if one sucks, then I'm stuck with it. But this I bought it this week. I made a first beer purchase since my birthday, and I was trying to be nice and behave. And this is the one that I've been looking at. I saw it a couple times. I'm like, all right, let me try it out. So yeah, it even has that little I don't know salty kind of bitterness in there too, which is cool.
It sounds awesome to me. While Zach is drinking tea, can I ask you? We're trying to fix the bears, and because poor bears, and so someone posed a question to me about AJ McCarron. Is
Okay.
there, do you see any circumstances under which AJ McCarron could be trade bait to other teams?
Um, I'm surprised the Bengals didn't explore this option to start the year, uh, especially considering that AJ McCarron had to come in and play for Andy Dalton when he got hurt down the stretch last year. Um, I like AJ McCarron. The talks with the Bengals is they rather have the two decent quarterbacks than to have Andy Dalton and kind of a subpar
Nobody.
backup.
Yeah, makes
And you
sense.
see that a lot with some of these teams where they'll have the starter, then the subpar backup, and and then the season just goes right into the toilet unless you're the Houston Texans, which I still don't understand how they win football games with their crappy quarterbacks. Um, but I think that the Bengals would be, I guess, silly to not listen to offers for AJ McCarron because there are tons of jobs out there where I think AJ McCarron could be the starter
Yeah.
for some of these teams. I think that
What do you think it
he
would
hit.
take? What would it take to get AJ McCarron on another team's roster? Like the Bears or whoever.
Usually when the Bengals trade, it's not really kind of a trade for, I guess, value, so to speak, and making sure that they get a great player in return. If you see AJ McCarron get dealt, they're just probably going to try and do it in stock draft picks.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
it's just
Alex
funny
Smith went
because
for like 2 second rounders, so maybe I
I
don't know.
mean, if
Is
Sam Bradford could go for a first rounder,
shoot, yeah,
uh,
man.
you know what I mean?
is McCarron
Yeah.
like Garoppolo? Is he in like the last year of his rookie deal? Is that right?
I think so.
So
Yeah,
the team would have to sign to an extension.
yeah,
But he
I
was a fourth round pick, right?
Second rounder,
yeah.
third rounder. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he was a fourth rounder.
quarterbacks
Yeah.
are
So I'm like, even if
weird.
they get, well, let's say just throwing it out there, and I don't have the chart up and I'm not looking at it or anything, but let's say they get, a fourth and a seventh.
They're gonna at least want a second.
Yeah.
I think a
You
second or a
think? Okay.
first. Uh, it would start there. Then probably they would have to package it with like
A
maybe a
second and a
fifth.
fifth? Yeah.
Yeah, second and a fifth or something like that. It will also depend on you see teams like what the Vikings, their situation last year where Teddy Bridgewater goes down to a horrific injury, and they were kind of in this spot where they went all in with Teddy Bridgewater. They needed to make the move for Sam Bradford. I think that if you see something similar happen to another team, I think that that's when they try and deal AJ McCarron,
Okay.
um, kind of in similar
Get
fashion to where
maximize the value.
right.
Yeah.
Um, but as of right now, I like where AJ is. I like knowing that he's the backup, but at the same time, he can start for a number of teams in this league,
Completely
and
agree.
you might as well get value for him while you can now.
Yeah, because as you said, they've locked in Andy Dalton, and he's the guy. And
Yep.
you've got a guy in his prime, and he's, right now, he's probably as valuable in a deal than he maybe ever is gonna be. Because what if Andy Dalton? I mean, because you don't know.
Right. And I mean, you look at the draft class of quarterbacks the last 4 or 5 years, and not a lot of guys, stand out as far as um,
You mean except Marcus
being
Mariota, right?
quarterbacks.
Of course.
Well, Marcus Mariota, if he can stay healthy, he's got the skill set. He's got the talent to do his thing. But you look at organizations like the Browns, and it'll be interesting to see what they do
Yep.
this year. With Robert Griffin, there's the familiarity with Hugh Jackson and AJ McCarron. If they decide not to go Deshaun Watson or anything like that, it's just every year there seems to be less and less quality quarterback play coming out of college. Uh, and I think that it creates this unwanted parity in the NFL where uh, you got a guy like Jared Goff who gets projected and becomes the first round draft pick, and you see his play out on the field, and it just doesn't look like NFL caliber play. You wonder how a guy like Brock Osweiler got a 4-year deal, close to $100 million. You see his play throughout the year, he gets benched, and just those two or three situations alone, I could see AJ McCarron being slid in there, and at least creating some competition coming out of camp because
Yeah.
sometimes it's needed. A little competition is needed in the NFL.
Yeah, that made me think about my favorite picture I saw during Super Bowl week. There was a trash can at one of the events, and it looked like a Texans jersey, and it said Assweiler on the back. I thought that was great. So yeah, they're like, oh, we owe him like 18 million next year. Hey, by the way, I looked at the schedule for next year. Bengals at Titans. So
Oh
T,
my
get yourself down to
God.
Nashville. Let's do
Let's
it.
make this happen, T.
Road trip.
Okay, well, I mean, my brother actually does work in Nashville.
Awesome.
Um, he works at the Jeff Ruby Steakhouse down there. There's a possibility. What week is this?
Well, they haven't. They named the teams. They
Oh,
just
they
haven't
haven't
named the
done the
days.
they
I
haven't
think
done
the
the
dates
exact
are
schedule.
in
I can
April.
never
Okay,
keep
so
up.
we'll
They
I
may
can
be
we'll
never
have
able
keep
to
up with that either.
we'll have to keep a lookout on exactly what date that is. But yeah, I mean, it's
You
definitely a
have to go to two
possibility.
bits. Two bits.
Yeah, the
I will
timing
be
has
in
to
Nashville.
work because I have my cousin lives in Houston. I've never gone for Texans Titans. I want to go one year, and he got into his wife works at like a oil company and got into like a suite. And I asked him like halfway through the game, "How you doing, man? How many fireballs did you have?" "Oh, I've had like five." I'm like, "Okay, good game." You gotta make the most out of it.
No doubt.
We need to do our pour one out. I think we can safely say we'll pour one out for the Falcons offensive staff and Atlanta ditching its reputation as a loser sports city. That's where they've poured one out. AT is gonna have the finest bottled water money can buy.
Yes. Although you guys keep drinking in front of me, and I just kind of want to like maybe take a shot of like bourbon or something. Maybe that'll make me feel better.
You
Our parents
should.
back in the day used to give us liquor to get over these colds and stuff. So I might have to medicate myself that way.
Well, it is time now for
Uh,
one of Shona's favorite segments, one of two. Um, hashtag over it, hashtag nah. We'll start with a softball, 5-star heart.
nah, I mean, I know that's amazing, but at this point, clowning Butch Jones is life.
Oh,
And
you like the Cloud Butch Jones too?
I
yes,
know.
Oh my God. I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, but I mean
I
when
do
he was here and
now.
he left, yeah, I am not a fan of Butch Jones. Him and that fart Brian Kelly can go fuck themselves.
I love you,
Oh, that's right. They
T.
were at Cincinnati, right?
Yeah, fuck them
Before.
Yeah.
both.
I mean,
Ass
listen,
clowns.
Cincinnati writers tried to warn everybody, and
Fuck.
Zach can tell you this. Early on, I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Butch
Brick by
Jones ta
brick.
Butch Jones talks a good game, but yeah, you know,
Such bullshit.
5-star
You'll
heart,
have to have me
baby,
on the show.
champions of
You'll
life.
Yeah, you'll have to have me on the show when college football season comes around, and when Tennessee first has their first choke of a win. Yeah, I like to go at it to the Tennessee Volunteer fans, let them know that Butch Jones sucks ass.
Yeah. Well, I kind of tempered everything because I'm a huge Josh Dobbs fan, and I think, despite the fact that he did regress a little bit for reasons that aren't his problem, and we could do a whole show, we could do hours on that and the whole running back situation and all of that. But it's going to be interesting to see what Tennessee does this year.
I like Tennessee. Yeah, I think that that last year's squad has a lot of decent NFL prospects. I don't know if Alvin Kamara is
Mara,
coming out. I know that Josh
It is.
Dobbs did the
yes,
Senior Bowl.
yeah.
We'll see what Josh Dobbs how he gets graded and how Kamara gets graded in the combine. But from what I saw, especially Kamara. I think that he could be a guy that could be an every down back in the NFL if he gets the right position. And I was thinking about this yesterday. As far as the running back position is concerned in the NFL, um, it's hard to kind of keep a job.
Yeah.
I think at the running back position, it's become harder and harder and harder. And I was thinking about, like, Ezekiel Elliott's contract.
Hmm.
And you wonder if, more of these young running backs are going to demand more money
They should.
because the shelf life is so,
Hmm.
it's nowhere near how it was back in the day.
Nope.
You have guys playing running back in the NFL for 3 to 4 years, and then
Adrian
they're
Peterson
not even
is
heard
is
of
an
anymore.
outlier, baby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking
I
like
think
Alfred
I think
Morris.
Ezekiel Elliott will be another guy that'll probably be a guy that can stand the test of time. But I'm not sold on Todd Gurley being the guy, being able to handle the workload. And I think that you're going to see more and more teams shy away from those first round running backs that are great at first rounders because the fluidity of the position has become so crazy. Where
Hmm.
you have guys like James White who was undrafted being superstars in the Super Bowl. So
Hmm.
it'll be interesting to see where Kamara lands. I liked his talent at Tennessee, and uh, probably the only thing that I liked at Tennessee last year, other than hating on Butch Jones.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty deep year at running back, and we'll stick with the college theme here over at
Okay.
our signing day hype because I don't think we've talked since signing day happened. So
I don't pay
it's a big
attention.
thing in the South,
It's
and
a big thing, college fans. It's a big thing for college fans, and I used to pay a lot more attention to it than I do now, and there are a lot of reasons for that, but one reason is because of attrition. And I support that. Listen, the NCAA is a monopoly is not the word that I'm looking for. It is a an evil institution that unjustly enriches itself and the schools that operate under its umbrella at the expense of the unpaid labor of these quote unquote student athletes. And I absolutely positively support their right to say, listen, this isn't what I was promised. I'm going somewhere else.
well, coaches can do
Yeah,
it, but players can't transfer,
I think it's just
without
kind of
sitting
a
out.
nice little like barometer of where your team is at. Uh, you know, uh, I'm a huge Florida State fan when it comes to football. I think for you guys being, or her being a Tennessee fan, it's the same schools every year. It kind
Yeah.
of doesn't really matter. You have your Oregons, you'll have your UCLA's, your Florida States, your Miami's, your Ohio States, your Michigans. You'll have your Tennessee, your Alabama, LSU's, and Georgia's all getting those recruits year after year after year. And I don't understand the hype at this point. I don't understand why it's become like a day.
I don't either.
I'm watching my local news, and bravo to the local athletes signing their letters of intent, but I don't care. I
I
don't
don't
really give a
either.
shit. You know what I mean? Like
I
it
don't
doesn't
start
matter
caring
to
until
me.
it's on the field, baby.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because I went to Missouri. I'm sure they finished like 50th. And the couple of years Missouri finished like in the top 10, they had a 50th ranked recruiting class too. It's just those guys played better. There was a really good story. I think USA Today did it, and it showed the top 100 guys from 2007 and like what happened to them. And like 50% of those guys didn't even get through college.
um,
Yeah.
Some of those guys
Yeah.
aren't even alive a decade
Right.
later.
yeah, let's
So it's
not give
really like it's
you get
really
me,
disheartening to see it in a
don't
way.
get
And
me on a
then you see
soapbox.
like, oh, number 65, he's like an all pro in the NFL, and then number 66 finished at JUCO and never graduated. That definitely happens, and maybe that's the side we don't
Are
want to
you going to
see.
ask me about Frank Wycheck? Because if you do, I need to grab a tissue box.
No, I will not go there. I didn't even
Okay.
think about that all. Sigh. I guess I
Well, I
shouldn't
like
show my.
the one show on Netflix, Last Chance U.
Yeah, I've seen,
Uh,
yes, it's good.
I thought that was an excellent
Very good.
documentary and showing, um, the process that it takes to go from that JUCO to
Hmm.
um, the D1 programs. If you follow that at all,
Yep.
you saw Jonathan Franklin come
Yep.
on towards the end of the year and actually get playing time at Auburn. DJ Law, he's still being a knucklehead and not really doing the things that he needs to do to get himself on the field. But you're right. A lot of this talent doesn't come from these D1 programs that reach the NFL, and just because you signed to Ohio State doesn't mean that in 4 years you're going to be playing in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, oh shoot, ouch. Since Zach
What
asked
happened
me,
there?
I kicked my chair since Zach asked me, and a big topic on the last podcast was Terrell Owens. Where did Terrell Owens go to school?
UTC. He was there the
UTC.
same when my wife was there,
See,
and
that's what I was getting
I think
ready
he
to
was
ask if
on the
who has
basketball team that
connections to
made the Final
UTC.
16. Yeah,
So yeah,
I kind of want a throwback like To UTC jersey if I could. Yeah, that was annoying that he didn't make. I think someone made some kind of post about like, well, To never sent dick pics to a team like employee, so of course he can't be in the Hall of Fame. That kind of stuff. It's like whatever he did, he like pissed off. No, he didn't piss off. He pissed off teammates, but he pissed off team guys following the team, and those are the guys voting
the
for the Hall of
writers.
Fame. And he
Yeah.
has numbers that like I think even Randy Moss he dwarfs. I mean, it's crazy. Like he kept switching teams, but he kept producing for those teams. I
Well,
mean, I
yeah,
almost
that's what I
forgot that he was
said.
on the Bills. I was like, man, this guy's made his way around the league.
Well, he's a
Surprised the
Bengals
Titans
player.
didn't sign him.
I mean, that's what I said. You can. I mean, T.O. was an asshole, okay? And yes, he
Yes.
switched a lot of teams, but damn it, when he was on their rosters, they sure as shit used him. He didn't get those
Yeah.
Yeah.
numbers out of nowhere, you
I mean,
know?
he had a couple of years where he was alligator arm city, um, but I think the longevity of his career, because people don't really know that To kept himself in great
He
shape
really did. I
all
talked about
throughout his
that.
career.
Yeah.
He's one of the. I wish my body looked like his. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I
but
mean,
at the
it's a
same time,
popular theme on draft Twitter right now that T.O. could sign for the Bengals and still put up probably a close to 1,000 yards and,
and if
eight
he did in his
touchdowns.
last year, I think in his last year with the Bengals, his last year playing in the league, he played with the Bengals, and I think he scored double-digit touchdowns for us and almost 1,000 yards. And I think that towards the end of the year, also, he was dealing with a knee issue that he just played through. So absolutely incredible. I agree with you, Zach. Though, the powers that be need to kind of pump the brakes and start recognizing the talent that To put on the field. And also on top of all of that, you think about the wide receiver position, you think about it being a diva position. Um, you got Michael Irving is kind of one of the premier divas to ever play the position, and I think that what To brought to the wide receiver position kind of evolved from Michael Irving, and where you see guys today trying to be like To, like Odell Beckham Jr. Uh, scoring touchdowns and being kind of controversial wide receivers for their ball clubs, doing bow-headed things, but at the same time, um, To was pure entertainment, and I think that that's something that's missing from the NFL. Um, he provided a lot of entertainment towards the NFL, and
Well, Bengals fans had a front
that's what you
seat
see.
to Chad Johnson. And
Yeah, yeah, and you see what Chad. I mean,
Ocho.
people look at Chad's numbers and they want to say, he's a Hall of Famer as well, and I'm like, pump the brakes on that.
I don't think he
Um,
is, but yeah.
I don't think he is either, and I think that when he decided to don the gold jacket in that first game in his final year, saying that he was a Hall of Famer, that was pretty much the curse end of him ever getting into the Hall of Fame. You just don't do something like that. Um, but he was a good wide receiver, and I think that a lot of the things that To did towards the game to make it a little bit more fun, Chad Johnson's done, and you're starting to see a little bit of that coming back in the NFL. But man, the fun has gone out of the league
It
since
really has.
Goodell has taken offense. It really has become so
The no
boring in
fun
terms
league.
of pure entertainment, which To provided.
Those are
But he'll get in. He'll
creative.
get in soon.
He'll get
He just
in.
has to wait his time. He will get in. He will definitely get in.
He'll
Is
get in, but if you read the people, if you know, it's one of the great things is that because of that criticism, guys are starting to come out and write a little bit about it, and it's a secretive process and tell what they can, and there are writers in that room who will never vote for him. No,
Yeah, it's kind of
never.
sad, and it is a bit of a logjam. Like the numbers that you needed as a wide receiver to get in the Hall of Fame like 20 years ago compared to now, like I think for a while, like one guy had 1,000 receptions, and now like 20 guys. I mean, it's insane. Like you look at the numbers, like Lynn Swan and Stallworth had for the Steelers in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like Antonio Brown topped those numbers in like 4 years
Right.
of his career, but because they never threw the ball in the 70s, it threw like three
Right.
passes a game. They made it in, and now it's like yeah, you talk about guys like Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce and all these
Yeah.
receivers. Like they really do have to wait. Like Tim Brown had to wait.
Yeah.
I think Marvin Harrison got in pretty quick, but I think Randy Moss is eligible next year. I mean, come on. I mean, what's
Don't even get me
I can't.
started.
Oh yeah,
Next
you're gonna wear
question.
your Randy Moss Titans jersey, right?
No, I was talking about Marvin Harrison, not Randy
Yeah,
Moss. I
yeah.
love Randy Moss.
So many potential like landmines. So okay, we're gonna do lighthearted over at Nas to finish. Okay.
Okay.
No concussion protocol needed. Nashville hot chicken over in since I don't.
Nah, that was so
We
awesome.
went Nashville. I didn't even know Nashville hot chicken was a thing till like 3 years ago, and I'd heard
Uh,
about it. And I took Sharona and I went because it was like my birthday weekend, and on Friday, Nashville hot chicken followed by Two Bits video game place that serves beer. I mean, come on, who can beat that? So that's pretty much what we did that day. And we started with the chicken, and Sharona got like one hot and one medium. I told her medium was about what I liked, and she got, I think you like the hot better.
I did.
You have a little more tolerance. I don't know if I can.
I do. I mean, I can. Well, first of all, and T doesn't know this, but Zach does. I grew up in Texas, and and so I have a tolerance
I'm
for
so
hot.
sorry.
I have, I have a tolerance for hot food, and I had not been to Hattie B's, but I've had hot chicken, and it was good. The medium was not hot enough, and the next one up was pretty hot. And I have to say it was pretty hot, but I definitely want to try the next level, and I forget what they call it.
Damn hot or something.
Something.
Well, the original
I
was
I think you have
Prince's,
to
and
sign. I
their
think you have to
medium
sign
is
a
pretty
waiver.
hot.
T. I think you have to
There's a
sign a
certain
waiver.
level that you have to go like two or three times before you're allowed to even try it. And I'm sure that's
I'm
the kind that
actually
if I tasted, I would die.
I am not the biggest fan of chicken. I actually can't stand fried chicken.
No
Um,
way.
I swear up and down, probably the only black person you'll ever meet that does not like fried chicken. Um, and the missus, she thinks I'm crazy for it as well. But yeah, I do not like fried chicken. I've never liked fried chicken.
What's your
Um,
food?
uh, I mean, I like good za. Love me some pizza. And I love a good burger. That's pretty much
Oh,
about
that's
it.
good. Yeah,
Do
that's
you
all right.
like the Cincinnati chili that everybody talks about and
It
whatever
depends
that?
on what kind. There are a few different kinds of Cincinnati chili, and it also depends on what side of town you're in, as
Okay.
well. If you're on the east side or the west side. But you have your little mom and pop chili joints like Pleasant Ridge chili, Blue Ash chili. Um, but the ones that people know the most are Gold Star and Skyline. And if you live here, you eat one, and you don't eat the other. One is sponsored by the Bengals, and the other one sponsors the Reds. So it's just this constant battle between the two all year long. And if I had to choose one of the two, I'm probably going to choose Gold Star over Skyline. But don't tell my daughter that because she loves Skyline.
Aw. How old's your little girl?
She's 7
Ugh.
now,
That is the best
handful and a
age.
half.
No, that's the best age.
Oh,
From like,
oh my.
I mean, it's all good, but from like 4 to 11 to me is, I mean, they're so fun then.
Kitties too. No, I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, so are we done with over it or not?
Well, I think we know what your thoughts are on beer video games. So over it or not, the off season.
There is no off season.
Exactly. Now there are
There's
other
for me.
shows.
I love baseball a little bit more than football, so
Oh,
I'm
Oh,
actually
that just
excited.
confuses me.
oh, and
I'm
Zach's
excited
eyes
that the
glazed
Super
over.
I don't
Bowl.
even know who's like on teams anymore. I'm aware the
Well,
Cubs
I mean,
won. I actually watched the last game of the World Series. It was the first baseball game I've watched through in like a decade. It was fun.
it was a good one. It was a good one. Yeah, I'm more of a fantasy baseball writer than a fantasy football writer. I
Okay,
enjoy playing fantasy baseball a little bit more. Um,
you're a
but
numbers
at the
guy, eh? Stats guy.
Um, sort of. With baseball, I'm more of a watching guy.
Okay.
I like to use the film more in baseball than I guess more people do. Where in football, I can rely a little bit more on the stats to tell me the story, as
Who was
opposed
your
to
baseball guy
actually
growing
watching the
up?
game. Oh, without a doubt, it was Ken Griff.
Okay,
Oh man, yeah, Griffey
Yeah,
and
I
watching him
approve.
play and knowing that he came from
Yep.
Cincinnati, you know what I mean? Like that was a
Ugh,
huge thing in Cincinnati. He was our kid, he was a Cincinnati kid. Even though he was playing for Seattle, we still rooted for him hardcore
sure.
here every single game. Um, but sticking with Cincinnati, I would say in conjunction with Griffey would be Barry Larkin.
Okay.
Barry Larkin was probably like one of my biggest heroes growing up. But yeah, my Twitter, avatar, it's me and Brandon Phillips,
Aw.
hanging out. So I love my Cincinnati Reds, but they're terrible, like most Cincinnati sports teams. So apparently, I like suffering through a
I
lot
used to
of
listen to the Reds on the radio because you
oh,
couldn't.
the best,
Yes,
the
it is.
best.
I
Marty
mean,
Brennaman is a
yeah,
lot of people like to talk about Vince Scully, and rightfully so,
yeah.
as one of the best voices in baseball. But Marty Brennaman, for me, is up there with Vince Scully. And if you
He
ever had a
just
chance
epitomizes
to,
baseball. I mean,
Mhm.
was the best. Yeah.
well, we're getting toward the end of our time. So, T, tell everybody where to find you and how excited you know. What about any baseball stuff you have coming up, or
Oh well, I'll have my rankings here. I haven't
Okay.
just scratched the surface in my fantasy baseball research. I like to take a little break after the football season and just kind of relax and not look at anything for a little bit. But folks, you guys can find me on Twitter at Houday, spelled with a U, not an O. Um, and other than that, my work will be on fakepickskin.com, Fantasy Pros, XN Sports throughout the year. So you just follow me and you guys will check that out. And maybe every now and then you'll get to watch me play a little bit of Magic on Twitch.
So,
If
what
you
games do you play? I
I
have
know
to
that's
ask.
that's
I
the
play
one,
Magic the
Sharona.
Gathering.
What?
I play Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
That's the game that I play. Um,
Now, what is
and
that?
it's a card game.
Okay.
Um,
So I'm a big
it's
RPG player, and I've got Twitch, but I don't have my Connect set up. But I play right now. I'm playing ESO.
okay. All right. Yeah, and Twitch is a very interesting app if you guys don't know anything about it, but it's completely for gamers. Um, but yeah, Magic's on there. Just like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh as well. They're all kind of card games, but yeah, I've got some things on Twitch. If you guys ever want to, look through my feed on Twitter, I'm sure you'll be able to find where I've been playing. But there's a store up here. We do our own video coverage and we broadcast on Twitch every
Oh,
Wednesday. So
Wow, because like my nephew once tried to show me how to play Magic the Gathering, and we were like at breakfast. I was like, "Yeah, you got me. I don't know what's
yeah,
happening
it's
here." And I
I'm
drove him
surprised
once
more
there, and
fantasy guys
yeah,
don't play Magic the Gathering because they kind of go hand in hand. Um, I don't know if you guys know Cedric Phillips, but he's a huge Magic guy. He's actually one of like the commentators for Star City Games and their network on Twitch. But he's getting into DFS, and whenever I see him, I talk about DFS a lot. And
gaming is big. Sorry.
Am I still here?
We lost
We lost T. Uh-oh.
in the midst.
Yeah,
He's
I
still
There
can
you
hear
there.
you.
Okay,
I can
he's
hear
back.
you.
I hear, I do not see, but
Uh, but yeah,
well, someone with a cold, he's doing strong work to make it through the whole hour. He's playing through overtime, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I didn't even
So
look at the
he,
time. Yes.
so if T's gone, yeah, Who Day on Twitter, you'll be able to track him down. I hear Sharona, you're cranking it up. You're getting back in the game. You're
Back in the game.
podcasting. I'm about to having a couple hours of content of yours to listen to every week, and then a few articles, right?
Yeah, we're doing shorter podcasts this year. They're not over an hour long. And so I think that's helpful. And I'm working on a lot of different things. And so definitely, check that out. And I've got two non-sports articles that I'm working on right now. And of course, my work at Inside the Pylon. And so, yeah, busy, busy, busy.
And I do this show and I tweet stuff and I get into occasional arguments with random people about politics now, which is so fun.
Woo!
So thanks, yeah, to Who Day 2T for being on, and of course, Sharona for joining me and putting up with out of context quotes. And we'll call it a week. And some podcasts, they take their off season off, but there is no off season. There's always stuff to talk about. So we'll be trying to come back to you every Wednesday. So thanks everybody for listening. And kiss my grits.